Make sure your cell phones are on vibrate. Like going off. Mine did last time. I said it, and mine went off, so. Mine's turned down. Anyway, thank y'all for coming. John, you want to say a prayer?
Father, we come to you one more time, this side of eternity. Thank you, God, for this gathering. Thank you for Seed of Love, our people. Lord, the love that we feel from our people. Reading today, Lord, where they said over 10,000 people a day died. Then I read where it said, once appointed unto man to die. And God, while we're here making decisions to make our community better, help us to realize we're going to die after a while. Help us to make the right decisions, just decisions. Father, we'll praise you and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did everyone get an agenda? I put them over there on the table if y'all need one. Right there, as soon as you come in, I printed a bunch of them off.
I want to thank everybody for coming. We're going to move on. Y'all go ahead and do what you need to. I need do I hear a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion.
Second. All in favor? Nay?
Kenny and Jerry. Kenny and Jerry.
Got it.
Approval of the August 11, 2020 meeting. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Second. All in favor? Nays? Next is payment of the bills, approval of bills.
I make a motion to approve the bills.
Jerry, can I get a second?
Second.
Kenny? All in favor? Nays?
Have we got a couple more copies of those, this?
What you need, man?
They don't have a copy back there, I don't believe it. Y'all got?
Yes.
Okay, all right, excuse me.
Okay, our scheduled speakers. Tim Breeder, you want to come up?
I put you on there first, Tamara.
Well, I was looking at the agenda, I was halfway down, so I wasn't paying attention. And this stays on file. I have one of those, but you can, here's a copy.
Gotcha.
Good evening. I am Tamara Greer. I'm an audit manager for Rutherford Moss and Company. And the last time I stood in front of you all, at this point last year, I'm gonna take this thing off, we were Thor Blackman and Associates. We had a merger on July 1st with Rutherford Moss and Company. So same office in Norton, same group of people. We've just expanded, so we now have 9 offices in 4 states. So you should have in front of you your audit report. It's been a most unusual year with COVID. We actually did not receive your all's information until the middle to late April, so, and then we've had several staff with COVID, out, quarantine, a little bit of everything, so it has delayed the process.
You had it as well, right?
I had it, yes, I did. I was one of those fortunate people that was tired a couple of days and did not notice. We have staff who are still in the hospital 7 weeks later, so everybody's different. If you will take the audit report in front of you and go to page 10, this is your June 30th of 2019 audit report. Page 10 is the independent auditor's report. Paragraph 2 always reminds you that management is responsible for these financials. These are your financials. You provide us that information. We audit the information as provided. You all prepare and present those financials for audit. The bottom paragraph is the opinion paragraph, and this is on the bottom of page 10. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, the aggregate discretely presented component units, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the town of Cedar Bluff, Virginia, as of June 30th, 2019. From the financial perspective, that's what we call an unmodified or clean opinion on the financials themselves. Okay? That's on your numbers. It means we did not find anything materially incorrect in that process, and that gets you a clean opinion. If you'll turn over to page 12, this is the independent auditor's report on internal control. This is only the second part of this report that actually belongs to the auditor. Again, the rest of this belongs to the town. It is your financials. Page 12 and 13 are our evaluation of your internal controls. During the audit process, we look at if you have a separation of duties. Do you have enough people managing the money, watching when it comes in, how it's deposited, who's reconciling it, who's approving it for payment, those types of things, to be sure that you have an adequate segregation of duties or internal controls. We don't give an opinion on those. We don't technically audit those, but we evaluate those during the audit process. And if we find things that are weaknesses that could create an issue, then we bring those to management's attention. And we've done this each year during the audit process. You have a second document there, which we will look at the last thing after we go through the numbers, and it will go through some of our recommendations for this year. You all had a software conversion and a change in a management team again, so you've got some unusual things that occurred during the year. So we will go through that before we're finished. But this is actually the official part of that report, and it does say that we did have a material weakness and a significant deficiency. And I will go through those as after we go through the numbers in the additional piece of paper. If you have any questions, I'll take those. Let's start on page 15. This is Exhibit 1, the Statement of Net Position. We will look at your governmental activities. This is your general fund on what we call the accrual basis. This reflects any debt and any assets that you own. Normally on your cash basis budgetary, you consider assets and payments on debt as actual expenditures. This actually shows them as a balance sheet like a business would do. So the first column, governmental activities. Total assets at the top of the page was $1,258,276. And you can see your capital assets depreciable of $683,000 and your capital assets non-depreciable of $299,542 are the largest portion of your assets on the accrual basis. Liabilities coming down the page again in the first column, which is your governmental activities. You had total liabilities of $103,473. The largest portion of those liabilities is your long-term debt. The general fund has one long-term outstanding debt. You had due within 1 year, $32,321, and due within more than 1 year, $59,129. You have a total net position in your governmental activities at the bottom of the page, $1,154,803, of which you have invested in your capital assets of $891,177. That's capital assets less any debt. And then that gives you an unrestricted net position in your governmental activities of $263,626. The business type column we will go over in a couple pages over that has the breakout of your water sewer. Go to Exhibit 2, which is on page 16. If you look at the first column, this is your expenses. This is what you offered at the top part under governmental activities, in column 1 under expenses is what you offer for public services, public safety, which includes police and fire, Public Works, which is your street maintenance, general government administration. This shows you what the cost to provide those public services were. And in the first column, total governmental activities, about middle of the page, $557,677. That was the total cost to provide your public services. If you follow across the page, under the column charges for services, you generated $14,553 under charges for services in your general fund. You had operating grants and contributions of $63,765, and that obviously varies from year to year depending on whether that's law enforcement assistance or maybe grants for vehicles. It could be a variety of things, so that number will fluctuate from year to year. If you go to the bottom of the page, you see general revenues. You had total general revenues and transfers in your governmental activities of $475,227. That's the amount that you had available to cover those public services at the top. That left you a negative change in your net position of $4,132. And which is about break even. Governmentals should be about break even. They're not, you want to be on the positive side, but as long as you're not running negative consistently is what you're looking for. If you go to page 17, which is Exhibit 3, and this is again your governmental fund, but this on the cash basis, which is how you normally budget and account each month as you're looking at your information. You had total assets of $275,649. Again, that number is different than what we looked at because it does not have your capital assets in it. It has total liabilities of $7,562, much lower than the number we looked at because your long-term debt is not in that number. Again, this is cash basis. You had deferred property taxes of $59,550, and that gave you a total fund balance in the middle of the page, $208,537, of which you had as non-spendable $7,458, and that leaves you an unassigned fund balance of $201,079. Your granting and lending agencies like to see that unassigned fund balance be about at least 6 months of a normal operating budget. If you can get to a year, that's fabulous, but that's what they're looking for, is to see at least an unassigned amount of about 6 months of what your normal operating budget is. If you go to Exhibit 4, which is on page 18, in your general fund, you had total revenues of $547,356. You had expenditures of $532,808, and that gave you a positive change of your revenues over expenditures of $14,548. We will go to Exhibit 6, which is on page 20. And this is your proprietary fund, which has your water, sewer, and garbage in it. You had total assets of $300,076, and again, in this fund, your capital assets, both depreciable and non-depreciable, are the largest portion of those assets. In other words, you don't have a lot of liquid cash because nobody wants to buy your water and sewer lines. Had total current liabilities in the middle of the page, $52,225. You had non-current liabilities of $145,799, of which you've got revenue bonds payable in the long-term portion, $58,861 of that number. That gave you a total net position at the bottom of $102,052. You had invested in capital assets in that net position, less any debt, $124,287, and that gives you a deficit in that proprietary fund of $22,235. It was around the same number last year. I want to say it was like $21,000 was the deficit last year. So you still need to get that positive. That's what your granting and lending agencies are looking at. That's when they'll say, what are your rates, or are you monitoring expenditures? There's only a couple of ways to get that to positive, but that's what they're typically looking for. Exhibit 7, which is on page 21, is your revenues and expenditures in your proprietary fund. Again, which is water, sewer, and garbage services. You had total operating revenues of $524,034. You had operating expenses of $549,896, and that gave you an operating loss of $25,862. You had non-operating revenues and expenditures of $63,147 for a positive change in your net position of $37,285. Now, the positive change in net position is a good thing, $37,285. However, you got $68,000 for the grant revenue in there, which was for starting projects. So you actually look at your operating loss of the $25,862. There is a non-cash number in that, which is depreciation at $27,865. So if you took the non-cash item out, you would be slightly above break even. However, most of the lending and granting agencies now make you factor in depreciation. They make you fund what they call funding the depreciation of assets, so that when you have to replace them, you are prepared for that. So even though on a cash basis without depreciation, you would have been a little closer to an even cash flow, you've still got to bear in mind that that factors in there, and that gives you an operating loss when you factor in the depreciation on assets. And they will look at there's a formula that they use when they're looking to do projects, whether it's replacements or improvements. They're always monitoring that. That's pretty much it for the numbers. I always encourage you to go through the footnotes. There are details on the assets, what makes them up by type, what you've added or taken away. There's detail on the debt that shows you by year what your principal and interest payments should be. That's back on page 32 and 33. And then everybody has had to be reminded this year on page 35, there's a footnote that first time I've ever seen one in my career. I believe the last time I ever saw one, but everyone gets one. It's our COVID-19 disclosure, which pretty much says you have no idea how this is going to affect you, and it could have an adverse effect on your financials. For example, utility billing, you couldn't collect for a certain period of time, so that has a drastic effect on your cash flows. Your tax base can be depressed because they don't have cash flow to pay. So we have to make everybody aware that's this was at the end of 19, you're coming into, you've already finished 20, but your 20 year was the year that was probably hit, and part of 21 has already continued to be hit that way. So you have to be aware of the fact that that can have an adverse financial impact. I will go over 2 other documents, and then I will be finished for the evening. One is simply on file with the manager's office. I gave him a copy. He can give you a copy of that if anybody wants to see. All it says is we had an audit agreement. We didn't use any outside help, and we didn't have any conflict with your staff during that process, and I'm required to furnish you one of those. The other document that I gave you when I handed it out is your internal control document. These are our recommendations for the year. As I mentioned, we will go to page 2 of this document. We had a material. There are levels of internal controls. You can have a system that's designed, say 2 people are supposed to sign each check, or somebody's supposed to look at the bank statements, or we're supposed to have a method for approving our payments. And you can just have a problem that's not working quite right. Or you can have a weakness that says we don't really have a process for this, and we need to make sure that we do. A material weakness says you need to address the issue so that it doesn't create a problem in your financials. A significant deficiency is going to be something it's probably not escalated to a problem yet, but you should be aware of it so that you can start planning for how to do that. And then the rest is what I call housekeeping, things that you need to fix before they become a problem. So you have a material weakness in this one, and it is the separation of duties. The last couple of years we have had that as a significant deficiency. You had management change, you not only had your town manager change, but you had your clerk position change as well, all during a very short period of time. So that affects the controls that are in place. It's difficult to come in and what all's going on and how are we doing it, and with no written, and most small towns do not have written policies and procedures. You need to. It helps when you do a transition, so there's something for people to follow. But you don't, so when you come in and have those transitions, it will create some additional weaknesses. So, and especially at some points, there was probably only one person here periodically and you were changing over. So your separation of duties is something you need to go back and revisit. You have a small staff between your town manager and your billing clerk. They pretty much have to handle everything. That's how it is in small towns. So I'm not saying this is only indicative to you all, but you have to be mindful that with a small number of people, you have to think about how do we make sure we're reviewing and controlling. One, you don't want your staff or your management group exposed. We're human. We make a mistake. You want a good control placed in, so if a mistake happens, somebody is there to verify and confirm and make sure that it's documented correctly. And then you don't want anything to go wrong inappropriately, is the second reason. So it's protection for your staff as well as protection for the community itself. So I would go back. This is the second year you guys have had, you had a town manager for, I don't know how long Jim was here, 20 or 30 years, a long time. And then Mr. Lester was probably here for the bulk of this year that I'm actually presenting to you. And then Mr. Absher came in, and then you've had a change in your clerk. So it's a really good time to revisit how do we do all of our processes, because they can't possibly take in the money and deposit the money and write the checks and reconcile bank. They've got to have, and sometimes that means a council person or another person in a department head. It could be a variety of different things that can help fill the gap if you don't have enough personnel to get a good separation of duties, but you need to be aware of that. The other recommendation we have is significant deficiency this year, and this is on bank reconciliations. During your software conversion, I would say, based on what we were looking at, everything didn't quite seamlessly transfer. That's not unusual in a software conversion. We've seen several different localities that have gone from the CityPack version to the FMS version of the software that you all have. And if it was older when you made those conversions, then some things didn't translate exactly right. Our firm's been through software conversions too. Not everything converts just perfectly, and you have to be watching for what those conversions are. So that affected some of your bank reconciliations. Now at the end of the 19 year, the reconciliations, they were behind for a few months because you had a transition in clerks, but they reconciled. But having worked with your staff and talked to them, the variance that you have is continuing to grow. So I would go back to my software vendor, okay, because you can see the activity, but it's just not all communicating correctly. I'd go back and see if there's any support with the software people, and we talked to Mr. Absher about this, what they can do to help you find and make sure everything is, I call it mapping, you know, the right side talks to the left side. It may be there, but it might not be showing in the correct place. Go back and find what they can do to help you make sure that everything is working correctly. We had one locality that switched to this software, and their meter read system for like 3 months, it just didn't work. It would read bills that were way up or bills that were non-existent, and it was simply because their technology that they had didn't commute with their new software right, and they had to manually go through that every month till they got it there. So you just it's a process. I always tell people when they convert software, expect an 18 months process. Everybody looks at me like, really? Yeah. 12 to 18 months before it's completely working correctly. So that's what the bank rec is about. But you don't want to let it get to the point that you can't figure out where the problem is. I also have recommended, and that's up to you all who you take, is you have a pre-audit group. Your auditor can't do it because I can't have my hands in your books fixing your problem and then try to audit. But you have a pre-audit firm, Hickok Brown, that helps you all get your numbers ready. You could see about maybe some consulting with them because they could help with your software vendor to see, make sure everything's working, give you a good analysis, or you could use anybody that it's your choice what you did with that. It's just a recommendation that you might want to consider some additional help to make sure everything's flowing seamlessly the way you need it to be. So, and I think the only other thing I had was just basic housekeeping, and that's record retention. When during the audit process we had some difficulty finding some of the items that we were looking for. Do know that you changed teams twice. Everybody files different. Somebody could have put it in the wrong box. They could put it in the back room. They could put it somewhere else. It could have inadvertently gotten destroyed. You know, there's no way to know that, but you need to establish a good written retention policy. Make sure everybody knows what that is, and you have a consistent system for that. That way, if you do have to change staff, then there's a system in place that everybody kind of knows what it is. But trust me, in our office, I've got one that files alphabetically, and one that files numerically, and one that likes the first name of the person, one likes the last name. I can't find anything. So we make sure we're streamlined too, but it happens. But during this audit process, we did have some difficulty in them being able to locate some things. Now, that's not necessarily detrimental. You can go back to most places and get them to provide you the supporting documentation. If you bought something from someone, or if you're using a supply company, you can get them to refurnish records. It's just a process, so you want to be able to have your original records on file for that. So, any questions?
Guys, are there any questions? Did you reach out to Hickok Brown?
I've left them a couple of messages, and I'm assuming they're like this. They're very polite. But yes, you need to call them also, and I've been calling the accountant that's been working on yours. I'll go to one of the partners and see if I can get their attention, just to get them to reach out. And I did leave a couple messages for your software people too.
Okay.
But yeah, so we just need to
We need
get you
to
guys in
check
touch
with
with them.
Cassie tomorrow on that list.
I have an extra copy of the audit. I brought extras, just one I'm using, and also there's extra one of those. I think somebody down through there didn't get one of those.
And here's the one I signed.
Yes.
Any questions?
Questions?
Guys?
Alright.
How often do we get checked on this?
We do an audit once a year. Now, this one is, typically you guys have that done probably January, February.
What
But
if we need something done between now and then?
now, an audit, you're probably only gonna have one of those a year unless you wound up with a legitimate documented issue that you had to have forensics. But you have another accounting group that helps you get things ready at year end. They're not auditing, they're helping you with accounting services, and they can do that at any point in time that you all want to have a conversation with them, or any accounting group that you would want to use.
We've used Hickok Brown for probably the last 15 years, and they do our pre-audit and get everything together for Rutherford Moss to come in and then go through the numbers.
Are we pretty well up to date with this?
Well, we're up to date now with until next year, but we need to get reconciled for, like she was saying, the software is not linking up. So, and she
Appears to be
conversation
going
we-
in, but it's not talking to each other.
Right,
It's not
right.
talking across the system the
Right.
right way.
Is this something that normally happens with the software?
A lot of times with the conversion, sometimes, now for example, and again, we've seen some city packs, you all waited a while to upgrade city pack. Every treasurer or accountant has their own preference of, I don't want to do that till all the bugs are out of it, for whatever reason. But if you wait to a certain period before you convert, then they don't have something that converts everything 100% because you've gone a few generations of software before they do that. So your all's conversion probably could have happened several years back. Again, that's a choice. But so not everything went seamlessly. I've worked on one in Abington. It took us 2.5 years to fix that conversion because they had a really, really old software and they converted to a modern, the most convenient software they had. And there was many things you just had to manually go through it and see. So they convert it, yes, but it doesn't always go everything. It's not unusual.
And it's
So you
not-
got to make sure you're going through it. And most of the time, staff, and nothing to Mr. Absher, you don't have to be an accountant to be a treasurer or town manager, I don't mean that. But sometimes in a software conversion, it helps to have a software and a technical accountant working at that because they can quickly see what's going on. And doing the everyday stuff, most staffing people, even CPAs on staff sometimes, will not have the ability to do that. That's the reason working with your software vendor and then somebody that has the time to actually dig in to help with that is what you need. But like I said, I've seen all kinds of software conversions. There'll be some little bugs and glitches in all of them. The thing is getting figured out as quickly as you can as to what's not happening. Oops, sorry. It's no different than sometimes I was watching Mr. Smith walk with his cane. Sometimes my brain says I want to do something, but the body part's not working quite the way I think it's going to. That's what your software is sort of doing in some places. Now, and not everywhere. It's just a glitch here and there that you've got to see what happens with it. It could be somebody said that in your old system, sewer revenue went to line item X. Well, when it converted, line item X doesn't exist anymore, so it's throwing it up somewhere else. That's not, I haven't looked to see if that's what happened. That's just an example of things that can happen with software. But your bank reconciliations, it's like everything's there, but it's not putting everything in the same place.
The money's in the bank.
Yeah.
It's just not showing up in the
Yeah,
software.
we can see it in the bank account,
Right,
those,
right.
and you can see it in the accounting software.
Right.
The report that generates to match the two is not
Right.
talking across the line.
Thank you.
You know, so I'll reach out to Dave and
Yeah.
I think what was the Pennington guy's name? Michael?
Michael.
Michael Pennington.
Michael Pennington, and Dave Brown.
Okay.
I may be wrong, I got another question, please excuse me. I don't know why when you use brain, you got my name. I want more or less, let me ask John instead of you. Are we up to date on what we're doing, John, with this?
I mean,
I feel like, and anybody can rebuke me and tell me
right.
that I'm out of line. More than half the council is not understanding what we're doing, and I don't understand it. Now, how many people should we have that's pretty well up to date to understand this?
Well, I mean, what she's talking about is, it's really not an accounting problem. It's more of a numbers problem as far as like a frequency problem, saying it's coming from this account to that account, making sure the numbers match so they commingle. you know, you could have 2 or 3 digits off on this side, it could shoot into a different account. That's what she's talking about. The reason the software is not matching up with what the banking side says. I'm not an IT guru, so I mean, I need Hickok and Brown.
You
to help
need
me
an
with that.
accountant and a
Right,
software
right,
person
so-
both.
Well, what
And
I'm
you are,
asking
now,
you-
your daily stuff is being done currently. They're not running behind on doing daily processes. That's not
Okay.
what we're talking about. And now, your audit, the June 30th, 19 audit, yes. Hickok Brown didn't get that to us until late in spring because you had a software conversion and they were working through some of that,
Right.
which put this process later. But current, this gets your audit current, and your June 30th to 20 audit will not be due. You all don't have the November 30th deadline, so typically end of year is what you shoot for your lending agencies.
What I'm interested in is our town manager, we're on our 3rd one within a year. Now, we're in a
I've been
process,
here about a year and 4 months.
We're here.
Ain't going nowhere.
and we're here electing mayors and councilmen and other things. I just like to feel comfortable that if something, if everybody got voted out and 1 or 2 resigned, how much trouble are we in trying to get all this organized and keep up with it? Now, what we're interested in as a council, I think they'll back me on it, we're interested in getting roads asphalted, fields fixed, water lines
Operation of the town.
operational. So we're not in here keeping up with all this paperwork.
Correct.
And I want to know if we're up to date enough to where if something happened, the worst, lost town manager, lost mayor, lost council members, all in one voting, how much trouble are we in keeping
I
up
would
with
tell
this?
you any locality's in a lot of trouble if that happens all at the same time.
We can't have, we got 3 council running one for every 4 years. There's
The whole
always
board, the whole
3
board can't.
Yeah, they can't do it all.
I agree with you, but now the council, and again, I beg you rebuke me if I'm wrong, a lot of the council are more working on, water lines, road lines, asphalt. Not many council members, I've been mayor twice, been on the council twice. When we get shut down one time, you get new people, you're in a bind if you don't have 1 or 2 people that knows a little more about what's going on.
Part of what control structure, this internal control structure that I'm talking about, part of that is what you're talking about. That's the reason you want to have a written thing that says, this is how we process our payments. This is how we authorize the signing our checks. It doesn't have to be complicated, but getting small things in writing so that you have policies in place so that if someone comes in, whether they're filling in for someone out sick or whether they're making a transition, having procedures that tell that somebody can come in and follow is what you're talking about. That's the reason we always evaluate your controls. You have a system of internal controls, making sure that's documented and it's all working correctly. So in a transition, you don't have everybody trying to figure out what's going on. That's the importance of your controls, and they can, I haven't met too many localities that could improve their controls, but getting them documented in writing is what you need to do. So that's your.
We got a gentleman back here, and I wish him well. I'm competing again for mayor, but if he took this over today, he would agree with me. Hard to look at everything and understand it.
Well, that's why you
And then
have
we got
different people.
another councilman running here that's never been council. If they get elected, and I wish them well, not saying I ought to get them. Probably both of them are a lot smarter than I am, but are we capable under those circumstances?
I can't answer that question for you completely, but that's the reason you have multiple people doing different functions, so that if you transition 1 or 2, there's still people in place that will know.
We got
after
3
that to
mayors here,
transition.
so we should be in pretty good shape.
Sure, and then you've
But I was
got, you've
gonna
got
make sure.
historical records as well that you go back. You have a functioning accounting software that even if the people using it left, it's a functioning accounting software. Someone would come in and take that place. It's always a challenge. So, but I don't, unless everybody in the room leaves all at the same time, I don't see what you have. But now I did see a locality that did that one time, literally.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Man, but I understand it correctly. I think you made one statement there that we need to look at increasing our water and sewer rates in order to obtain
Now, I'm your auditor,
Federal.
so I can't say you have to increase your rates. What I can tell you is you had an operating loss. So there's only one or a couple of ways to do that. You either have to increase a rate or you have to cut expenses. That's how business works. So that becomes a management decision as to how you accomplish that. But you are still having an operating loss, and that's what, so one or the other, you have to look at rates or you have to look at expenses.
Instead of raising
That's the only
rates,
way to do
Kenny,
that.
what you could do, like Townsend County PSA did, they reduced, instead of the 2,000 gallon minimum, I think they went to 1,000 gallon.
Well, I'm not,
So I'm just saying,
I'm not
So,
suggesting.
so
Right.
everybody will print the paper the auditor said raise rates. I can't tell you to
right,
do
right,
that.
right.
I can't tell you to do
I'm
that.
just, I know, but I'm just saying, we could lower the
I get it all
minimum
the time.
and increase our revenue if we had to that way without raising rates.
I'm not suggesting raising the rates. I guess I misunderstood it.
Well,
You know,
I did say
that
you did have,
plays
you do have an operating loss,
That
okay?
plays a part of getting federal funding.
It does. Your granting and lending agencies like to not see an operating loss. So you have to look at the couple of, how do you not have an operating loss? What do we do to do that? So that's your
That's
consideration.
just with the grants.
Give us four folks.
If you need to borrow money or you need to get grants, yes, they will do that. And typically with water and sewer, you're always having to replace lines and stuff. So you just need to, you want to be aware on the front end instead of waiting till you have to have the money and you haven't addressed those issues. So it's, we just point that out. And it's small towns. I tell every small town, get out of utility business. I can't tell you to do that either, but typically in our entire region, we got all kinds of grant funding many years ago to put in clean water and sewer, which is great. But they do not give you funding to operate it. And typically it's not something that makes money. That's the reason PSA and things that specialize in that exist, and localities. That's your government. You do fire and police and safety and all that, but all of our governments somehow got into the utility business a long time ago. Anything else?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy, appreciate it.
My email address and phone number are on file in the manager's office if anybody needs me. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Chief, come on up.
Just got a couple things. I'll stand up here because no dudes make me nervous. The new body camera system, we discussed the ordinance or the policy in the last council meeting. They're in, the system is up and operational. I'm passing around a couple of cameras up here. The one Mr. Aaron has is the older camera, it's way down the front of your vest. If you've got a vest on, duty belt and everything else, you're adding about 13, 14 pounds too that you carry around every day. These cameras are a lot more lighter. One of the other big benefits is it's all local storage. With the old system, and you guys are welcome to take these cameras out if you want to. The old system, each one of those cameras are stored on a different computer. So mine was stored in my office, Sergeant Lars was stored at his office, Benny Brown's was stored, either on Ryan's or mine. This is a local system, all the videos are stored together, so it's one central location. Legislation is still being pushed forward where they're wanting us to maintain video footage for 5 years on all contacts. That's a lot of video. So anytime I get out of my car, go get me a can of snuff, or I get out to fight the drunk, I've got to have my body camera on. So 5 years is a lot of video. So the system we've got now is a huge improvement over what we had. Second thing I guess would be the legislative changes. The police officers in Virginia actually won one. They upheld our qualified immunity. A lot of people don't understand what qualified immunity means, but I can't be sued for hurting somebody's feelings now. As long as I'm on duty. There's actually a case filed in Georgia. One of my favorite terms, I hate to say it, but is pillhead. I use the term pillhead quite a bit. There's a lawsuit in Florida right now going through where an officer called a pharmaceutically challenged individual, called him a pillhead. Now he's being sued for it. Qualified immunity prevents that. So that was a good win on our side.
What was the one you was telling me about now? If you raise your voice now.
They've come out with another thing now with use of force. Virginia State Police and DCJS want to track everything we're doing out here. Right now it's voluntary, but it's going to be mandatory come January. The definition of use of force. I know Mr. Sword knows about the force continuum. They illustrate it as a triangle, and at the top is officer presence. They're wanting us to start doing a use of force, this hasn't passed, but it's one of the things being brought up. I guess somebody got mad because they didn't pass their qualified immunity. If I raise my voice to you on a traffic stop, if I'm dealing with you while you're intoxicated, or somebody just beat the crap out of their wife or whatever, I raise my force that they're wanting me to do a use of force for them. To me, it's ridiculous. But that hasn't passed yet. Hopefully it won't. But like I said, the cameras, if anybody wants to check out the weight, there's a huge difference in the weight. Or if you want to go back and take a look at our system, more than happy to show it to you.
They automatically turn on as soon as you get out of the car, don't they, Chief?
No, you have to turn them on yourself.
Okay.
I got a bunch of these over there if anybody wants any of them. I don't know where they come from, but I got them coming to my ears. That's the reason I brought them over here tonight. So if anybody wants any of them, feel free. But if anybody's ever any questions or anything, just contact us here at the police department and we'll do what we can for you. Any questions?
I can't thank y'all enough.
Thanks,
We
Chief.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Did a great job.
And you know, another line of defense in the software, Chief Brown, he actually got a license through FMS. He took the class when Missy took it, so, and Chief is probably one of the smartest guys I've ever met as far as IT guys. I rely on Chief Brown all the time. I drive you crazy, don't I, Chief? Yeah, so anyways, because he is computer savvy, Chief is. So anyways, I mean, we always lean on each other, me and Mike Brown, Chief Brown, and Missy, but I feel like, you know, Jerry or Lee, whoever signed the checks, I mean, a lot of times Jerry's asked me, what's this going for, or whatever. Every check that we write here at the town takes 2 signatures. Lee signed checks yesterday, so I'm just saying, you know, Jerry signed some checks today, so, you know, there's accountability here, and I like that. I mean, you know, I like that protection. I would like for us to get with Hickok and Brown and get the software lined out, but as far as us having as much money in the bank at this time as we did last year, actually we got a little bit more, you know. We've been extremely frugal, but still, it makes you nervous when your bank says you got X amount of dollars and it's always more than what your software is saying. So you got to get that reconciled. So I'm sure Tamara will help us, and you know, we'll get it worked out. That's all I'm going to say, Mayor.
I saved extra money to tell them for mine York's water bill.
Oh man, I love that.
We're just gonna combine houses instead of water. You raise 3 or 4, you can raise mine. We got the asphalt bid for
Oh
College
yeah,
Road.
I got the asphalt bid here. We advertised that in the voice papers just so we could do everything right this time, and ran it for a few weeks there. And Gateway Paving, they bid on the one that we're going to get done. We got them to bid 2 different ways. And Terry met with Dominion Driveway Parking Lot Paving Incorporated. And you also met with John Reedy on the Gateway Paving. They're the only 2 bids that we got. Here's both bids. If you total Gateway Paving, both parts, theirs is $30,600. If you total both parts of Dominion, $34,895. If you separate them, Dominion is $29,857. Gateway Paving is $26,000 flat. And then on the other one, on the smaller portion, Dominion was $5,038, and Gateway Paving was even $4,600. So Gateway Paving won the bid on that. All we need now is a motion to award them the paving contract, because that's all the bids that I got for that. I said we advertised it in the paper, and these are the only 2 companies that bid on it, but we gotta get College Hill paved this year.
I make a motion to accept the bids and bid.
I'll second it.
I just have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How are we on funding for that?
We have, you know, because we are awarding them the bid, they, like I said, we got them to bid 2 different specs, and both of them bid on the exact same. We may just do, instead of doing them both together, we may split it up.
But only as far as having the funds available.
Yeah, we do have the funds available. We've allocated that, yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Nays? Good. Okay, that's fine. Next is public comment. Anybody?
Come on, Tina.
Oh,
Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. Sorry, I thought he was talking to me.
That's okay.
Tim Altizer, 205 Kentucky Turnpike. You know, sometimes I ask for FOIA documents just to see if the town will provide me with the same documents that they've provided to others in the past. That was the case behind me asking for Mr. Shepherd's 2013 tax ticket. After attempting to hold it from me by using invalid law, the town decided it would give it to me. As I expected, it showed a decade of unpaid real estate taxes. In the past, I had also obtained 10 documents that showed at the same time he owed 7 years of personal property tax. No one should be allowed to go this long without meeting their obligations to the town of Cedar Bluff. No one. Much less a sitting councilman who repeatedly voted to increase what others pay during the same time period. You have the power and you have the authority to keep this from happening. There have been people who say I should not be bringing this up because Mr. Shepherd's debt is paid and it was so long ago. But I'll remind those people of the letters sent out by a majority of this council just prior to the 2018 general election. You felt it important to keep the people of Cedar Bluff informed of my felony conviction, which was from 25 years ago. I will also remind those same people that my debt to society has been paid in full. I paid with my money and I paid with my freedom. The stated purpose of the letter I just mentioned was to keep the people informed about those running for council. I think it's time for the town to consider sending out another informative letter. Let me give you some suggestions as to what that letter might contain. Number one, include in that letter how Mr. Shepherd felt it was fine to owe large debts to the town, yet vote to increase what others pay while not paying his own debts. Number two, include in that letter how Mr. Herron believed it to be fine to hand out a $25,000 paving job to his nephew without any bids, a contract, or prior council approval. Also include how after giving the citizens the largest rate increase package in the history of the town, you felt it appropriate to raise your pay by $600 per person per year, a 100% increase. Lastly, include how even though you claim to be open and transparent and have the equipment to record these meetings, you refuse to do so. Tell the people how my recordings right here are the only word-for-word record of what goes on here. Tell them how if I leave that recorder unattended for only a couple minutes, Mr. Herron picks it up and tries to erase my recordings. Tell them how he laughs and giggles when he thinks he's erasing my recordings, but in reality, all he does is record himself trying to delete my recordings. I encourage you to show the people that the 2018 letter was truly to keep them informed, not simply a letter generated solely in an effort to discredit your political opponents while you ignore the actions of your political allies. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oops, almost picked it up.
Mr. Mayor, don't forget to cut it off when the meeting's over, is it?
Mr. Mayor.
Just keep your eyes off of it, Mr. Herron.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
My name is Brian Sword, 127 McCall Street. I want to just say that I commend the street department. You know, everything's looking great in the town. I want to really commend Chief Brown, Sergeant Lark, and Officer Brown. My little travels through the town, you know, picking up trash and just, you know, meeting and talking to people. Speeds have been way down. And picking up trash up here, I mean, you really need it because it's like Indy 500 coming through there. But I really like the way the town's going, and I commend the police department, especially for everything going on with law enforcement in the nation. They do a fine job, and I thank them.
Appreciate you, Ken. Thank you. Go ahead, Ken. Yeah, go ahead.
Kenneth Shepherd, address 710 Middle Creek Road, Cedar Bluff, Virginia. This is just in response to Mr. Altizer's statement. it's not no political ploy or anything else. I owned a house on Indian Creek. I didn't live in that house myself personally for the years he's talking about. My stepdaughter did. But all in all, and all the same, all the interest, all the penalties, all the taxes were paid. I was the county city but nothing as far as taxes. And I just want the public to know that.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Anybody? John, you got your town manager report?
Maybe the voice will print that myself.
I'd like to respond, Mr. Mayor. I mean, I was fine until he made that comment there from the bench. I would not said nothing during his public comments. The voice will print what the voice wants to print. That's the purpose of that recorder, is because I don't understand why this town has the equipment but will not record these meetings. You're the only town during COVID that hasn't either broadcast them, recorded them, or had word-for-word transcripts. And then you try to delete them and erase them? If you would have tried to cut it off. No, sir. Not until Mr. Mayor says. If you'd like me to shut up, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Thank you. That is the only record. You're the only town.
Get over getting beat in 2018 and everything else that's happened to you. Would you just shut up and let everybody do their job? I think everybody in here is sick and tired of listening to you.
Shut up and let you do what you want to do without bringing up the problems that I
You didn't
just
have an
brought up.
opportunity to do what you wanted to do because you didn't know how to do it.
Excuse
all I'm
me,
gonna say.
I didn't have the opportunity to do what I wanted to do because you threw me off. And now you have implemented 14 of the things I tried to do since the time you threw me off. I couldn't even get a second, and now you've implemented nearly every one of them.
Go ahead, John.
The CARES Act funding, money has been dispersed. The town received $11,000 from Tazewell County. We had a committee formed, Jerry Herron, Kenny Shepherd, and Joe Blair McLaughlin, and of course myself. All the businesses that applied received funding. We ended up giving $14,000 away instead of 11. The biggest donor of them all, of course, was B&B, but they was the only restaurant that applied. El Burrito didn't file for any funding, so they got the $3,000 that was allocated to restaurants directed towards B&B, and everyone else received $1,000 apiece. Since then, we have received a couple more requests for some more money, but you know, we had a deadline. We like I said, we dispersed the money on September 11th on Friday. I've had a couple more businesses reach out, so I reached out and spoke with Eric Young. He's the new county administrator. He used to be the county attorney, but anyways, Tazewell County as a whole is going to have over $1 million in October for funding for businesses in Tazewell County. Than any business in Tazewell County, whether you're located in the county or a township, can apply for. So, you know, a lot of the businesses that didn't get in on the $11,000 or the money that we dispersed here at the town, the Tazewell County is going to have well over $1 million to disperse in October. I wanted to bring that up. Paystar. What is that paperwork? Paystar. Paystar is an online group that Miss Morrison found. What we're doing, we're having problems, you know, just because with the government mandate and all the townships being closed, and you know, most of the time people come knock on the door, I let them in, even though some people get mad at me for letting them in, but I will let them in, you know, because anyways. But anyways, I don't see a problem with it, but it seems like now more people's going to paying online Everything's moving online. And they will set her website up for free. They will set up the machine for free, everything. It won't cost the town a penny. Their fee is 3% up to $100. So if you say you pay a $100 water bill, you're gonna pay $103. But anything over $100, their fee drops down to 2.75%. So they fix our website for us. It's pretty. I mean, it seems pretty nice on this. I mean, it's the nicest thing that we've seen for the town with online payments and just the younger generation. Just that's awesome. Because really, our phone stays busy. We have so many people say, "I've tried to call in for 2 hours, can't get through," and most people now, I think they even said they could create an app where people could download, put it through their phone and pay that way. So anyways, I would like to go that route. I think that's the way everything's moving. And Missy printed this off. I only printed one off, but if y'all want to pass around and look at it or whatever, anyone in the crowd wants to look at it. That I have a guy that I love. He is a super nice guy. His name is Ron Thomason. He's just a citizen here in the town of Cedar Bluff. He proposed to his wife at the Cedar Bluff Overlook Park, I believe, up there on the trail, didn't he, Terry? Yeah. He has really been cleaning the park up. Free labor, don't want paid for anything. I mean, just top-notch guy. I mean, really. And I wanted to recognize him. I had a business or a property owner on Edgewater Drive. They had purchased a home down Edgewater Drive, Johnny, down there where Miss Farmer used to own. There's a greenhouse in behind there. She would like to reopen that greenhouse. I don't see a problem with it, but it's I don't see a problem with reopening that greenhouse. I mean, I was wanting to ask Jim about it tonight. I know it's in like a residential / area there off Edgewater Drive, but that's not in the comprehensive plan. So, I'm talking about
D&T.
No.
That hole, or are you talking about that?
Right before you get to WTH there on the
Yeah,
right.
it's almost right there in the trailer court, right behind.
Yeah, there's an alley there going to Donnie Joe's trailer court there.
They've still got a greenhouse set.
It's still there and erected and all. It used to be Miss Fran Farmer's, and I think the girl that purchased it's Miss Asbury. She used to be the farmer's daughter at Claypool Hill.
Oh yeah.
She's wanting to open that. I didn't know. Is that something we need to have a planning commission meeting on? I mean, I don't see a problem. It's already erected. I mean, that's the reason I was wanting to ask Jim.
Business, right?
I'm not thinking of anything right off.
Yeah, I told her the reason she was
person.
Well, she's going to open a greenhouse there, but the reason she wanted us to pretty much take a vote on it or discuss it is she is working with Margie Douglas at the college and maybe getting like a small business loan or something like that for the greenhouse. So I told her I didn't have a problem with it, but I mean, if y'all want to take a vote, I mean,
We don't vote on that.
I mean,
Just take your business license.
I think it'd be fine, don't you? I'm for it. I mean, I don't have a
I
problem.
live on Edgewater Drive, I would love it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
You can just have her get in touch with me if she needs to talk about it for some reason.
Yeah, I was probably gonna write her a letter of endorsement from the town, but I just wanted to, you think just to seal it up, just to have a vote or something?
Well, it's not something the council votes on.
Yeah. Right, I mean, she was just worried, because there's just a few residents there.
I'll guess we'll give her business license.
Understand it's a residential zone.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. She want to reopen the spring.
I don't know. I mean, she's working with Margie Douglas over Southwest. I'm not sure. I'm sure probably this spring. I would imagine.
That was a greenhouse for years.
We just received our taxes from the Commissioner of Revenue's office, Dave Anderson. Just got them in today, and they're on a disc, so we're gonna go through them, and they said they'd send the personal property
By email this evening.
by email, yeah, so, we got the real estate in, so. We just got them, and like I said, with everything going on today, we didn't even have a chance to crack it open. We'll do that maybe tomorrow or later in the week.
We didn't get it till later today anyway.
Right. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, Tim, you wanna do the water for me?
I didn't see one, was there water?
Rick Pruitt, should I had you one? I guess there wasn't, Tim. I guess there wasn't. He usually does that for you, Rick Pruitt does.
Jerry got fired?
Yeah. It was the month of August, 4 monthly meetings, 3 calls during the month, total hours of meeting, training, and other 72. Total hours on calls were 29. Submitted by Brian Lockhart.
Go ahead, Judge.
Police report, total calls responded to were 63. We worked 1 accident. They made 1 arrest. 38 traffic stops. Issued 17 summons at those stops. Traffic checkpoints, they had 1. Patrol 4,042 miles. Town total tickets issued none. Assist other jurisdictions 1. No canine deployments. DUI arrests none. Warning tickets 5. Auxiliary office hours 14. And they did attend some special functions on August the 6th. They, did all of you attend, or just the chief who?
Myself and Sergeant Locker attended.
Okay, okay.
Just different webinars and training.
2 of the officers attended the Southwest Virginia Chief of Police Roundtable meeting. On the 13th of August, they attended the Highway Safety Grant Distribution Training. On August the 18th, they attended the SRO Grant Distribution Training. And on the 28th of August, they attended the VRSA Duty to Act Training, and currently working on a duty to intervene policy for the police department. So they've been busy, and they do a great job. As Brian said, the traffic slowed down, the Cedar Bluffs. We're all real pleased with the hard work you all have done. Thank you.
Hey, when your main street's 35 mile an hour. That's the first town I've ever seen 35 mile an hour with the main drag. Tell me do it. Any council concerns?
Let's see, I had something I wanted to ask you about. I can't remember what it was. That's what happens when you get older. What was it? Oh, I know what I want to do. I would like for you all to think about doing something for a gentleman that was really a special guy here in Cedar Bluff. Joe Adair, Dr. Adair, inspired me to pick up the trash. When he retired, he was a well-known dentist, and it didn't bother him to go out and pick up trash up in the area that he lived in. He was a very civic-minded man, and I think he was a wonderful citizen, and I think because of his contribution to the community, I think we should think about a letter of commendation for him, or something to the family to let them know how much we appreciated what he did. That's my thought, and I'd like to make a motion that we write a letter for that commendation for him, and all of us could sign it as council members. Okay?
I'll second that. Yeah.
Now, do you finally need to make that into a motion? I'll make that motion that we do that.
Sure, go ahead. Tim Trent second, you get that? All in favor?
Aye.
Nice, good.
Joe, to get on that, and I should have mentioned that, I'm sorry, Tom Lester called me, and you know the street there at the Hardee's at Claypool Hill, they're gonna get that named, Dr. Joey Adair Drive.
All right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that would be nice.
Yeah,
So that and a letter from us,
yeah,
commending him for all the work to the family that will make him feel good, I think we should do it.
Absolutely. Any more concerns from the council?
But did we have anything left over from last month that we had to do a second year?
Was there something y'all tabled for last month?
No, not taken. I thought
We did a first reading, didn't we, Jim?
Yeah.
What was that? Oh, was that the,
Well, I don't know, it's not on the agenda.
that was on the,
You got last month's agenda.
Last month, where's it at?
here it is. Oh, that was on the, body cams, I believe. Was it the police body cams?
Nothing against that?
That's the only thing I can.
Yeah.
Was it the police body cams?
So we're good on all that.
Chief, you wanna, have that read a second, time tonight and adopted, or is next meeting soon enough for you?
The next meeting would have to be better because with the new system, there'll be changes.
I noticed it wasn't on the agenda.
Yeah, I believe space.
My attorney didn't remind me.
But yeah, there'll be a couple changes because of the.
I know where you
No,
live.
that's with you,
I know where you live.
I'm messing with you.
Okay, if there's no more council concerns, I appreciate everybody coming. I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Jerry?
Second.
Terry? All in favor? Thank y'all for coming.
7:37.
We're out.
Is it? 7:37.
Chief's afternoon, we go around.
Yes. You are, that's all that.